ॐ सङ्गच्छत्वं संवदत्वं सम्भो मनांसि जान्। ॐ सङ्गच्छत्वं संवदत्वं सम्भो मनांसि जानता देवाभागं यथा पूर्वे संजानाना उपासते। पूजनीय इंजीनियर श्री भिकुभाई पटेल सर, चेयरमैन श्री सीवीएम, आदरणीय श्री मनीष भाई पटेल सर, वाइस प्रेसिडेंट सीवीएम, वंदनीय डॉक्टर एस जी पटेल सर, सेक्रेटरी सीवीएम, आदरणीय श्री बीपी पटेल सर, श्री मेहुल भाई पटेल सर, श्री रमेश भाई तलाटी सर, श्री विशाल भाई पटेल सर, ज्वाइंट सेक्रेटरी सीवीएम। आज के प्रमुख वक्ता डॉक्टर विजय कुमार पीएस, एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर, लकुलिश योग यूनिवर्सिटी अहमदाबाद, डॉक्टर मल्हारी संदेश पांडे सर, प्रिंसिपल जीजेपी आईएएसआर, सभी अध्यापक वृंद एवं विद्यार्थी मित्र, मैं वैद्य सुलक्षणा रामदास जायभाई, प्रोफेसर एवं विभागाध्यक्ष स्वस्थवृत्त विभाग, आप सभी का इस वेबिनार में हृदय स्वागत करती हूँ। योग भारत की प्राचीनतम विद्या का अंग है। जीवन में मन शांति, सकारात्मकता एवं ऊर्जा स्रोत निरंतर बनाए रखने में योगाभ्यास महत्वपूर्ण है। योग कोई धर्म नहीं है जो विश्वास मांगता है, वह तो शुद्ध विज्ञान है। यह हमें किसी बात पर विश्वास करने को नहीं कहता है। विज्ञान जैसे कहता है प्रयोग करो, वैसे योग कहता है अनुभव करो। प्रयोग का अर्थ है हम कुछ बाहर की ओर कर रहे हैं और अनुभव का अर्थ है हम कुछ अपने भीतर कर रहे हैं। अनुभव एक आंतरिक प्रयोग है, इसीलिए योग अस्तित्वगत अनुभवजन्य प्रयोग है। आज का विज्ञानवादी प्रगतिशील मानव बहिर्मुखता के कारण अत्यंत तनावग्रस्त जीवन शैली का स्वीकार विविध कारणवश कर रहा है। इसी के परिणाम स्वरूप आज उसका शारीरिक, मानसिक, सामाजिक, आध्यात्मिक स्वास्थ्य खतरे में है। कोरोना जैसी भयावह महामारी इसी का परिणाम कह सकते हैं। इस कठिनतम काल में मानव जाति को खुद को शारीरिक एवं मानसिक रूप से सुदृढ़ एवं सक्षम बनाने हेतु हमारी प्राचीन परंपराओं, विद्याओं, जीवन शैली एवं योगाभ्यास को अपने जीवन का अविभाज्य अंग करके स्वीकार करना अनिवार्य है। कल पूरा विश्व 6वां अंतर्राष्ट्रीय योग दिवस मनाने जा रहा है। हमारी संस्था ऐसे विविध अवसर के उपलक्ष्य में निरंतर वैविध्यपूर्ण कार्यक्रमों का आयोजन करती है। इसी अभेद्य श्रृंखला का एक भाग आज का यह वेबिनार है, जिसमें कॉम्बैटिंग स्ट्रेस थ्रू योगा इस विषय पर डॉक्टर विजय कुमार पीएस व्याख्यान देने हेतु आमंत्रित किया गया है। मैं हमारे प्रधान आचार्य डॉक्टर एम के संदेश पांडे जी से विनती करती हूँ कि वह आज के प्रमुख वक्ता का परिचय एवं कार्यक्रम की प्रस्तावना करें। सर।
Good morning, dear students and all participants of this webinar. I'm thankful to Sulakshana madam, who is in that organizing committee. Swasthurta department and NSS unit has organized this webinar, combating stress through yoga. I have been assigned to introduce our learned speaker, Dr. P.S. Vijay Kumar. But before this introduction, I would like to say a few words regarding our CVM University, which is newly established university, but the foundation is more than 100 years old, that of the Charotar Vidya Mandal, a charitable trust established before independence, and Charotar Vidya Mandal or CVM is not only a trust, charitable trust or an educational institution, but with the vision of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, particularly for development of rural areas, Bhikabai and Bhai Kaka established this Charutar Vidya Mandal, and a galaxy of great personalities along with Bhai Kaka and Bhikabai has blessed this institute and this Charutar area with the very noble deeds of CBM. Initially, the personalities like H.M. Patel, who was central minister also, then T.L. Patel sir, and now engineer B.B. Patel sir is the chairman of Charutar Vidya Mandal. G.J. Patel Ayurved College is constituent college of this newly formed Charutar Vidya Mandal University. It has been established in 2006, and since its inception, with dedication and with a vision to develop the doctors for society, particularly not a money-making institute, not a money-making college like other institutes. G.J. Patel College is working hard, taking all efforts to maintain its cadre. I'm very happy to convey this thing to you that we are the one of the topmost colleges in Ayurveda education in India. So this was a long journey to create this reputation in the field of Ayurveda fraternity, and all my colleagues, teachers who are working here, many of the staff is since the inception, they are working here. Like Sulakshana madam is working since more than 8 to 10 years. Many of the staff members, my colleagues who are the participants in this organizing committee, Sanjay Jadhav sir, Somraj Kharche sir, and this the learned persons, learned staff members, teaching staff, has brought this institute to a certainly a height of what we can say a benchmark in Ayurveda education, not only in Gujarat state, but all over India. So this was brief regarding our G.J. Patel Ayurved College and CVM University. Let me take an opportunity to introduce our learned speaker, Vijay Kumar PS, Dr. Vijay Kumar PS. He is a doctor, BAMS. He has completed BAMS from Bangalore. And then you might be knowing the renowned yoga university, S. Vyasa, which has been established by H. Nagendra. And being there, being with that university is itself a thing of pride. He has completed his MD in yoga and rehabilitation from S. Vyasa University. Also, he has done MSc in psychology. Presently, he is working as an associate professor in Lakulish Yoga University, Ahmedabad. You might be knowing that Lakulish Yoga University is the specialized university of yoga. So, Vijay Kumar sir is working with Lakulish Yoga University. He is having more than 12 years clinical experience. He was working with Yes Vyasa. Just before few minutes, I was talking with him, and he told me that he has huge experience with that Arogya Dhama of Yes Vyasa University. More than 30 scientific publications are on his name. He has conducted various workshops abroad regarding yoga, and this science of yoga is such thing that We can say it's purely Amrutam. We people say that Ayurvedo Amrutanam. And as a part of our ancient Indian sciences, the gift or the Amrutam given by Patanjali, many people think that Patanjali and Atreya Punarvasu are not the separate personalities, they are one and the same. One expresses his way through Ayurveda, and Patanjali has given this yoga, science of yoga for humankind. So I welcome Dr. Vijay Kumar sir for this today's lecture on topic combating stress through yoga. During this session, the students are also allowed to ask questions, and at the end we would be discussing certain selected questions with Vijay Kumar sir. So both speakers and students are expected to be ready for the questions and answers also. And I hope this webinar will bring a new light, new focus, in particularly in view of this 6th International Yoga Day, and in the environment where COVID is the major factor to combat with. Just before few days, we conducted a webinar combating COVID-19 an Ayurvedic approach. And I hope this will be the next step in this combat. So I welcome Vijay Kumar sir and hand it over to Vijay Kumar sir for his deliberations. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. It was indeed a very prolonged introduction. And my humble pranams to all the dignitaries, patrons of GJ Patel Ayurveda, GJ Patel Ayurveda Institution. The souls and hearts behind this renowned institution, GJ Patel Ayurveda Institution, has been globally spreading the wisdom of ancient science of healing. I will be honored to be a part of this webinar, and indeed it's my pleasure to be with you today. And first of all, I would like to give my greetings on behalf of 6th International Day of Yoga. Greetings to all. So before we begin, I would like to show some gratitude to our ancient sage Patanjali by chanting Patanjali Namanam. So the verse goes like this: Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarotam pravaram muninam Patanjali pranjali ranatosmi. So our revered sage Patanjali has clearly given a science for our mental well-being, right? So in inclination to the same, the entire wisdom of yoga has been closely connected with Sanatana Dharma, as Ayurveda and yoga goes parallelly, because we call them as sister science, and we all know that because you cannot separate it. For health, for physical health, we have Ayurveda. For mental health, we have yoga. So they go hand in hand, right? So welcome all the future doctors and participants and learned scholars. For today's, I rather not call it as a lecture, because we have all the big guns of the industry. I prefer it as a live interaction session, because we all know so many things regarding medicine, regarding health, regarding Ayurveda, regarding yoga. So there are so many things we know. So this should be like what we call it as brainstorming. Let us make it as a brainstorming by discussing different venues of yoga and stress, how we combat stress through yoga, Okay, so let us get started with the beginning. So as we all know that stress या तनाव जो है उसके बगैर जिंदगी में मजा नहीं आता है, because stress is it's just like a spice of life. Nobody could enjoy without a bit of run or hits or hush push here, because तनाव के बगैर अगर आप मान लीजिए कि आपको भूख लगता है तो तुरंत खाना मिल जाता है, बाहर जाएंगे तो ट्रैफिक नहीं है, ऑफिस में जाएंगे तो कोई टारगेट नहीं है, मतलब पैसे का कोई दिक्कत नहीं, कोई अगर कहीं पे भी अगर कोई तनाव नहीं है तो आपको कंटाल आने लगता है, मीन्स यू स्टार्ट फीलिंग देयर इज नो motivation. Stress is not something which is really bad. The problem is we all are looking stress into something which is evil. Stress is not evil. Stress is the basic response. The nature has created such a wonderful tool for all the living beings to manage their day-to-day life. In order to manage our day-to-day life effectively, that is what I would say. Effective living comes with a patch of stress. Without stress, we can't live effectively, or we can't be productive. In order to be effective and productive in life, we all need stress, right? So don't look stress as something called evil or ghost or something. Stress is something which is very, very essential for every living creature on this planet, and it is a nature-made thing. It is not man-made thing. But definitely we have worsened it, no doubt, like how we worsened other things. So let us try to see what stress is about. Stress is nothing but it is just a response to a demanding situation. Demanding means that's what we call it as stressors. A demand could come from external source or from internal. Demand could be either internal or external. But the thing here is, there are a lot of different categories when we categorize particularly, that we will see later. But before that, always think stress is something which is non-productive, but definitely stress is productive. That is what we say, good stress, bad stress. Like these days people say good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. So similarly, stress is also have it has a two-sided story too. Like stress with the optimal thing, that is what we call it as eustress. So without that eustress, good stress, we won't be able to do anything. For example, if there is no exam and no student will try to read, if there is no interview for the job, no person who job seeker will never prepare himself or herself. So in order to prepare ourselves to be more productive, to be more effective in life and process of life, we have to have some amount of stress. That is what we talk about eustress. That's good, and it will be like a short term, and it is beneficial. We become productive. It's good for training ourselves. It's really good. The other part of the story would be, if we are not able to manage this eustress, then it will get converted into something called as distress. So when stress converts into distress, then the whole plethora of pathological manifestation starts, because it's like a negative side of stress. So that slowly start building up so many pathological changes at the level of mind, at the level of body. Then finally it will manifest into a disease. So anyways, so in order to understand stress, what are those stressors? Stressor means anything, any stimuli or any event or any circumstance that could be able to create a response inside our body, that is called as stressor, stimuli. So it might be an external one or it might be internal one, but both external and internal stressors finally have to affect our mind, then my psyche, then that has to affect our brain. That is what we call it as a neurobiological change. From there it has to infiltrate into throughout, like endocrine system, then entire metabolism. That is how the cycle of stress works. Actually, the stress process has been recently discovered, I would say. Like Dr. Hans Selye, he was a medical researcher in early 20th century. Actually, was trying to find out something called as sex hormones. So he started injecting ovarian content into rats. Then he started seeing there are a lot of endocrine growths throughout the rat's body. So from that he reached something called as stress response. That was the beginning of the modern, what we call it as a modern science, where they started recognizing the actual process of stress and stress response, how stress and stress response influences individuals psychophysiological process. So he coined, Dr. Hans Selye has coined a term called as general adaptation syndrome. As we all aware, the gas or general adaptation syndrome means from the stimulus to the response, how the entire process of this stress response goes. So it has three phases. The entire general adaptation syndrome goes with three phases. First, as we all know, that is alarm phase. The second phase is like resistance, adaptation phase. The third is exhaustion phase. So the best part is, if we are able to manage first two phases, then we are safe, means we are good. If we only manage alarm phase and adaptation phase, then we are good to go, means there will be no negative consequences of stress on anybody. But the problem here is, if we have lack of coping, means the stress resilience is not good enough, then it will get into something called as exhaustion phase. Exhaustion phase is something where definitely there will be a pathological change, but again it has its own process. It will not happen overnight, so don't worry. My intention is not to make you panic, okay? So I'm just trying to explain how the entire process of stress response goes stage by stage. Means we always have time, space and choice, so that we can definitely work on it and we can reverse it, right? So alarm stage is, as we all know, it's like a flight or flight response. Either you fight or you flight. That is just mobilizing the resources to meet the demand. That is fine. It is just small metabolic change by increasing adrenaline and slowing down immune response. That's a basic change. So if in case that alarm stage continues to the next stage, if it moves to the next phase, that is endurance or adaptation phase, body try to resist it, means body tries to develop adaptation, because there are a lot of psychophysiological changes that comes along with the alarm phase. So body, means our entire system, tries to adapt to that. That is still fine. If our stress resilience or our coping mechanism is good enough, then slowly it will reverse that phase into homeostatic phase, means a normal physiological process. If we fail to reverse it because of insufficient coping skills or lack of resilience to stress, then we will move into the third phase, that is a bit danger zone, called as exhaustion phase, where our bodies start to deteriorate, which means the physiological functions slowly start to deteriorate because of overload. Simple example is, if you have a vehicle with you, it's a car which has 1600 RMP. If you drive that car 200 miles per hour for like 10 months, then the durability of the engine will slowly go down, because that is the vice versa. Means there is a threshold for everything. Every system has its own threshold. If you push the threshold beyond, then obviously it will get into something called as breakdown, damage. It might be a slow process, but definitely there will be a damage, right? So that is the problem. When we hit the exhaustion phase, the pathological process starts. So that is the problem. But as long as it is just a fight or flight response, we are able to manage alarm phase and adaptation phase. That is good going. Because please try to understand, we can't run away from stress, because stress is a part and parcel of every living creature. on a day-to-day basis. It is not like only when exam comes and I'm stressed. After that, no, there will be different stressors, because stress comes from so many ways. And most important thing is, stress is more of, how we perceive it. Is just like pain. As we, because there are a lot of young doctors and senior faculties, they know it better. If we try to explain the mechanism of pain, it is very complicated, because pain is always about how the person feels and where the person feels, and it is highly individualized. We can't make out exactly how much intensity of pain, we can't quantify it, because it is highly subjective. Similarly, how we perceive pain, stress is also is the same thing. It's a response to how we perceive the threat. There are so many people, like some people, just by seeing a dog, mere dog can create a panic episode in a system. For others, seeing a dog increases their oxytocin level and make them feel more, cared and more loving. So the same dog, same threat, if you see it as a threat, it's like you can say it's a sky apart, because how we perceive that matters. It is not about the identified object which creates a particular response. Stimulus might be anything, but how we perceive and how we respond, that is a total different story. That is why uh, I would not say managing stress. I would say stress is a part of life. It's a good thing, but in order to maintain our day-to-day life productively, we need to have something called as stress resilience. So that stress resilience has to be, trained through a systems called yoga. They are specialized in enhancing so many things, out of which stress resilience is also one of the major things, right? So whenever we see, stress response, first thing is there are two pathways which get activated. Whenever we expose ourselves to stimuli, the stimuli enters our, what we call it as a mental field, yeah, psyche. So from the mental field, the entire mental process, it perceives, it cognizes, then after that it will infiltrate into something called as the brain structure, especially the amygdala, thalamus, hypothalamus, and the entire limbic cortex, as we consider. There will be a neurobiological change in that particular area called as limbic cortex. From there, that message will get transformed into something called as neurochemical, yeah, neurobiological translation. So there will be a hormonal changes, followed by neuroelectrical changes. From there on, there will be a lot of physiological changes. So when we try to understand, there is a stimuli and there will be a response. As soon we get in contact with, when we come in contact with the stimuli, body generate response in two pathways. The first one is for fight or flight response. As you see, if you see a tiger, so immediately you'll become panicked. So that the first fight or flight response generated from your hypothalamo, sympathetic pituitary, the adrenal medullary axis, sympatheto adrenal medullary axis. That is what the first phase is called as sympathetic phase. Sympathetic nervous system gets activated during that alarm stage. That is the beginning, initial stage of the stress, immediate response. So where the nerve endings of the sympathetic nervous system produces something called as the hormone called as epinephrine and norepinephrine. As we all know, adrenaline and noradrenaline. So they are also known as catecholamines. They are secreted from the sympathetic nervous system, as well as the adrenal medulla, adrenal gland, which is there on the kidney. So inside that adrenal gland, there is adrenal medulla that produces catecholamines. So sympathoadrenal medullary axis get activated in order to secrete the chemicals called as adrenaline and noradrenaline. So the job of adrenaline and noradrenaline is they try to increase blood pressure, cardiac output, and the entire plethora of basic physiological change. Like your muscle becomes stiff, skeletal muscles become stiff, heart rate increases, cardiac stroke increases, there will be a peripheral vasodilation. There are so many things which comes with epinephrine and norepinephrine. Then after the stress continues, then body activates something called as the second line, that is HPA axis, hypothalamo pituitary adrenal axis, where there will be a signal that comes from amygdala to hypothalamus. The hypothalamus produces corticotrophin releasing hormone that goes to pituitary, anterior lobe of pituitary. There it produces ACTH, that is adrenocorticotrophic releasing hormone. The hormone which goes to kidney, the cortex, the outer layer of the adrenal gland, produces the glucocorticoid that is called as cortisol, as we all know. That cortisol, the main job of cortisol is to elevate blood pressure by doing gluconeogenesis and glycogenesis. So both the ways, means it convert glycogen into glucose, and it converts amino acids and fats into glucose. So entire the physiological response is to compensate and prepare an organism to combat with, or to fight with the demand, or to compensate the demand. So in this process, you can see very clearly, first our mind, mental process is involved. Then it comes to the nervous system, means the central nervous system, that is sympatheto-adrenal medullary axis. Then it goes to the peripheral nervous system, that is HPA axis, then the endocrine system, then the entire metabolism. So it's such a beautifully orchestrated response nature has created. But unfortunately, we fail to understand how this stress could be a productive one if we use it in a very productive way. Means if we use it wisely, that is what yuktistiyo janat yatu yujyate. It's all about utilizer, how we utilize anything. Because there's a beautiful saying, it might be out of context. In Tantra Yukti, it says, Amantram aksharam nasti, nasti amulam anoshadam, ayogyo purusho nasti, yojakastatra durlabha. So Indian wisdom is something which is beyond, fields of possibilities. It has given such a wonderful opportunity. It says nothing is waste as long as we know how to use it. So stress is also same. It's a basic survival response, but we are not able, or we are not equipped to utilize it in a right way or in a proper way. So in that, if you see both the primary response and secondary response through sympathetic and HPA axis, there will be an enormous physiological change, including increased inflammatory response by secreting more pro-inflammatory cytokines, immune suppression through low lymphocytic activity. Then there are a lot of behavioral changes. Then atherogenic dyslipidemia, hardening of the arteries, increased insulin level, along with glucagon level, increased heart rate, blood viscosity, stroke volume. So it's like it's like a broad spectral physiological change. I'm not harassing you by showing this slide. I'm just trying to make you understand how one simple perceptual error can make havoc in the physiological change. So how do we know that whether we have been affected by stress or not? Because stress affects our mind and body complex. That is what we call it as human existence as a holistic one. So stress affects each and every aspect of individual. It starts from the emotional part, then cognitive, then behavioral, then physical. So all of it. So few examples would be, the physical symptoms start with aches and pains. So aches and pains are like, even if we get the screening, for example, the scans, X-rays, blood tests, and so many other investigatory things, but we won't be able to diagnose anything because everything looks within the normal range, but still the discomfort inconvenience will be there, like digestive issues of diarrhea, constipation, gastritis, dizziness, nausea, chest pain, lack of sleep, and arrhythmias, frequent infections. There are like the goes on. These are the few physical symptoms if we are under distress. If you try to see the emotional symptoms would be like altered moodiness, irritability, feeling overwhelmed or hesitation, you can't relax, and they always feel like loneliness. They try to isolate themselves and generalize a depression with no worth of life. Means, in one word, you can say emotionally they become very vulnerable, because small thing can easily disturb their emotional quotient. Next is cognitive symptoms would be like they are unable to concentrate, they can't focus on the work or in the relationship or anything, personal and professional life. In both the ways, lack of judgment, only negative things, so much anxious thoughts, constantly worrying for nothing. So these are a few cognitive symptoms that obviously causes the problems with memory. Then problem with memory always causes with lack of work quality in the sense both personally and professionally. That causes it goes on like it's a chain of reaction. Next, behavioral symptoms is once we go through with cognitive symptoms, obviously that influence our behavior, because behavior comes after our cognition. Eating difficulties, sleeping difficulties, isolation, not able to pick up responsibilities, and substance abuse like alcohol, tobacco, or any form of substance, drugs or something. And you can by seeing a person who is under distress, you can make it very clearly, because they look pale, they look so restless. It's very easy to make out a person who is under distress. So these are few symptoms what we can make out by seeing a person or by asking a person, right? So there are wide range of diseases which comes with toll of distress. For example, atherosclerotic changes that causes heart disease like coronary artery disease, or even myocardial infarctions, and irritable bowel syndrome, gastric ulcers, asthma, autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and systemic lupus erythematosus, hypothyroidism, that Hashimoto's, anxiety, delayed wound healing, diabetes, hypothyroidism, hypertension, infertility. So if you start making a list, stress has a direct influence on all the diseases which are no doubt the non-communicable ones. They start from C to C. That's what I say. Common cold to cancer, all the diseases which comes under this category will have a direct influence of stress. Some of them will be directly caused by stress. Some of them will be influenced by stress. So by and large, stress is a key player in all non-communicable diseases. That's what the prevalence is, because we all know that today's mortality rate, if you take a global scenario, the mortality rate would go 86% to non-communicable diseases, which means all these infectious category will fall only for 10%, and other 4% goes for natural calamities. So 86% would be direct contribution of non-communicable diseases. And stress is the major key player for all these non-communicable diseases, even for the manifestation and even for the worsening of the condition. So this is just a nutshell how what is stress and how stress could influence our day-to-day life and well-being, right? So if that is the case, I would like to share one thing here. While treating patients with non-communicable diseases, this is what I learned. Every time we try to treat their symptoms, and by not considering the person as a whole, for example, even the attitude towards life, the attitude of a patient makes a huge difference there, because just by mere prescribing medication will not change anything in their disease status. So what do we need to do is we need to change their approach towards life. Means there should be an attitude change. Then only the change in the disease, even managing or reversing the disease, can be seen only by changing the attitude. So stress is the major thing that transforms an individual's attitude towards day-to-day life. So that's what I learned, and definitely that gives a huge difference in the results. So let's move on to the yoga part. I mean, how do we utilize yoga as a tool for combating stress? Yoga, as we all know that, it's an our ancient wisdom with a yoga Vedic base. So yoga, there are so many forms, so many controversies as well. So if we try to follow the authentic sources, we can utilize so many other forms of yoga. But in general, any form of yoga would be fine. But before we start, there should be an holistic approach. Means just doing pranayama or just doing asanas or mere doing bandha, mudra, kriyas will not help the condition. In order to gain the full benefit, we need to go with multidimensional approach. That is what yoga is all about. Yoga way of life, not just yoga is an exercise or a part of exercise regime. We should take yoga as a lifestyle. Then we can effectively combat our stress. Extremely sorry for the inconvenience, sir, because there was a technical glitch. So, can you see the slide?
No, sir.
Just a second. Can you see it now, sir?
No, sir. आप स्पीच शुरू कर दीजिए सर, चलेगा.
Okay, so extremely sorry for the technical inconvenience caused. As we all know that yoga is a holistic approach by its construct. So we should always work with dietary changes and physical activity, like Ayurveda says, ahara, vihara, vichara, and vyavahara. All the four are the mandatory pillars, like what we see in Ayurveda, Trayopastambhas. Here we have to see in a yogic context the physical aspect, the pranic aspect, the mental aspect, the intellectual aspect, and the blissful aspect. So all the five aspects, that's what we call it as a conglomeration of mind, body, soul complex. This entire mind, body complex has to be worked out. Then only we can develop a better stress resilience. So To begin with, how yoga perceives stress. Yoga sees stress as speed in the sense it's just like ati vega or vega in its totality, means at each kosha level, at each existential level of an human, there will be a speed. That is what yoga explains. Stress, yeah, tanav has been explained as a speed, yeah, rush at each and every level of human existence. And if you try to look into Yoga Vasistha, sage Vasistha Muni explains how stress could lead in manifestation of such a dreadful diseases. So thousands of years ago, he has clearly given an idea under the heading of Vyadhi, means how diseases could manifest in a human system. He goes on explaining Adija Vyadhis, the category. In that he explained Saraja and Samanyaja. Saraja is like a hereditary or congenital by its inheritance. That is okay. The Samanyaja is purely a non-communicable and psychosomatic category, what we call it as stress-borne diseases. The entire Adija Vyadhi are connected to stress-borne, because even if you try to scrutinize the causative factors of congenital and hereditary influences, there is a possibility of stress that could influence those issues. That is what the entire Garbha Samskara Vidhi, those things comes under, right? So if you try to see the Samanyaja category, the entire non-communicable diseases comes under that category. So Yoga Vasistha gives us a clear notion how stress could become a lethal disease-causing agent if you do not manage it in a proper way. So he goes on giving mana prashamanopayaha yoga. So because according to Yoga Vasistha, the disease manifestation means any abnormality that takes place inside a human body that always starts from the mind level. Mind level means if there is any disturbance at our mental process, that directly influences our vital energy, or what we call it as bioelectromagnetic field, that influences our metabolic activities. Then if normal metabolic activity, that is what we call it homeostasis. If not, then this is a disease. So how Ayurveda explains Shadkriya Kala means there is a whole process. It's not like randomly there will be something flaring up. It always follows something called it as methodology. It goes with a particular methods. Even a disease manifestation takes its own course of time and course of action. It's not random. It is very well structured, but again, it is an individualized thing. For example, if two people undergoes with a similar amount of stress, for example, दो लोग office में काम कर रहे हैं, even both of them are undergoing same amount of stress, but one might develop gastritis, the other one might develop hypertension. If you try to analyze why, because these two individuals have their own individual mental process. So how they perceived, and whichever the weaker weaker areas in the sense weaker organs or weaker organ systems could be the easy prey. Weaker areas are always the easy target for the disturbances, because the mental fluctuation, if there is any disturbance at the mind level, that is where we perceive stress. Stress, we always perceive at the mental level first. That is what is Adi starts. Adi is the mental disturbances. Then we perceive stress and we try to percolate, means slowly that percolates into our physical body through vital energy. That is what it is, because the prana, vital, bio electromagnetic field that bridges mind and body, right? So any disturbance at the mind level, obviously it disturbs our vital energy flow. Vital energy, according to Ayurveda, what that travels through Shrotas, yoga says whatever that travels through nadis, and Chinese medicine says meridians. So all are trying to explain same thing. That is the subtlest, aspect of our physical existence, where with that bioplasmic energy that controls the physiological process. So once there is a disturbance at the mental level, that percolates into our vital energy. At the pranamaya kosha level, at the vital energy level, that disturbs the functionality of it. For example, by disturbing the distribution pattern, either it could be atijirnatva, ajirnatva, or kujirnatva, means there will be less metabolic activity, less than normal, yeah, more than normal, yeah, abnormal. So either of which could be able to generate physiological malfunctioning. On a long run, this amount of physiological disturbance would be able to create a disease at a weaker areas or a weaker organ system. So that would be an easy prey. So that is how yogic science defines stress and manifestation of disease through stress. And they also given us solutions for it. Means this is how it works, and for this problem, how do we tackle these? So Yoga Vasistha clearly says mana prashamanopayah. Slowing down the mind can ease perceptive errors, because there will be no judgmental issues when we slow down our cognitive process, because lesser thoughts, easier way to process information. The speed of mind, lack of judgment, means there will be always wrong judgment, because we can't process the information through its entirety. There is always lacking behind, means we can't perceive it properly, because we have to see and experience the circumstances also. So dietary changes like sattvic diet, having a simple wholesome sattvic diet will definitely influence individuals stress response, because normally by eating junk and all denatured processed food, it increases free radicals in the body, which means, as you know, monooxygen species, superoxidase dismutase, means lipid peroxidase. There are so many free radicals like oxygen bodies. They are capable of damaging our cellular structures. If we induce our body with lot of this unwholesome diet, that increases oxidative stress. Already, if there is an oxidative stress, then it would become very easy for disease manifestation, if at all there is a small amount of mental stress. So shifting ourselves into a holistic sattvic diet, wholesome yogic sattvic diet, will be of great help. Then asanas, simple, there is no set rules. You can go with simple Surya Namaskara also, because asanas are wonderful tools, because it is not for just a musculoskeletal modification. It works at the level of biofeedback to cell signaling level. It's a vast area to explore. Through rigorous research throughout the globe, people are trying to explore the possibilities and the actual mechanism, how yogasanas and other practices of yoga could affect physiological process. So whatever the ample of results through research we have, we can definitely speculate, or we can make an hypothesis. By doing asanas, we can definitely stabilize biofeedback systems. And most important is, it helps us to develop internal awareness. The internal awareness is something which is very, very, very important for all the practitioners to understand, because yoga is all about inward journey. It is not introversion. It is inward journey, which means developing internal awareness. Once we are able to develop internal awareness through asanas, that is what the first step of asana is, closing our eyes. Means try to withdraw our senses towards redirecting our senses internally towards us. So from that step, throughout the entire asana, stimulating the system, then letting it go with the relaxation, all this process helps to develop internal awareness, because this internal awareness is the key for what we call it as mindfulness. Because if we want to develop an attitude of mindfulness, mindfulness means being present and experiencing everything without prejudice, experiencing everything to its fullest, just witnessing. That is what we say, right? What I do and what I feel. There is always a dilemma. Implicit, explicit dilemma will be always there. That is what we call it as, uh, incoherence between what I think and what I do. So mindfulness is something which keeps our inner self quiet and making it witness the entire process. For example, if you try to take an example, every day I go to office very late, my boss becomes very angry and he will scold. Even if I go early, he will scold. In that situation, if I try to mindfully analyze it, the answer would be very simple, because he is trying to shift his frustration from his personal life or professional life to shifting onto me, because I'm his lower subordinate. I won't be able to talk back. So he's trying to ventilate his frustration on me. If I look at it, look that situation, if I perceive that situation with mindfulness, I won't feel anything. There will be no stress generation. There will be no distress, because I just witness his frustration, and I feel I will feel so empathetic towards him. I feel like, oh my God, wish he could manage his frustration well. May God give him more strength and resilience to manage his frustration. That is the power of mindfulness. We can enjoy everything to its fullest when we develop the attitude of mindfulness. That comes with internal awareness. So when we develop mindfulness, obviously it enhances coping skills. That is what we learn in yoga. First, we develop internal awareness, that leads to mindfulness, that enhances so many capabilities of human potentials. So these are few examples what we can see. And pranayama is there, obviously. By doing pranayama, we have seen n number of scientific evidences by asana, by pranayama, by kriya, by mudra, bandha. I'm not trying to segregate because of time restriction. Let me put it together. Like by doing yoga, so far we have gathered so many scientific evidence. I would like to share few. Overall, by practicing meditation, asana, pranayama, mudra, bandhas on a regular basis, at the physical level, at the somatic level, it stimulates vagal pathways, which means directly we can activate parasympathetic activity that we all know. In distress, that will be completely drawn down. So by elevating parasympathetic response, stress can be compensated very easily. And by regular practices of yoga, the inflammatory responses goes down, and heart rate goes down, blood pressure goes down, and heart rate variability increases. Even by one single session of yoga, in stress, the heart rate variability goes down. That causes heart disease. So by doing yoga practices, you can increase heart rate variability. Then the coagulatory profile will increase. Endothelial function, the blood vessels, the endothelial function increases. Oxidative stress, free radical load goes down. And at the psychological level, perceived stress level, mood, and self-esteem, the categories of cognitive and behavioral issues can be easily resolved, along with increased insulin sensitivity and glucose tolerance, improved lipid profile, reducing visceral adiposity. Like the benefits, the list of benefits goes on. So all the disease risk factors comes with stress can be easily managed through yoga. Why emphasizing yoga is because it is less expensive. Less expensive means almost nil, because once you learn it, you can do it. It requires less space. You don't have to have a fancy place, or you don't have to go to a fancy place. So it's a less expensive, and it's very convenient. You can do it anytime. Only there should be 2 hours after food. Means you just do it anywhere, anytime, with your convenience. So that is the best part of yoga compared to all other stress management methods. So There are so many things, but by and large, this is what I strongly believe, that yoga is a part of our Sanatana Dharma. We hold such a treasure of wisdom. Without understanding it properly, we are getting distracted. So it's our responsibility as a healthcare provider, as a academic, soldiers, I call. It's our responsibility to spread the right information to each and everybody, and generating some worthwhile, awareness to each and everyone. So I think that should suffice for today's need. If there are any questions, I would take it up. Hope I did not, torture.
अत्यंत प्रभावशाली, शिक्षात्मक एवं ज्ञानपूर्ण व्याख्यान के लिए आपका धन्यवाद सर। अब प्रश्न एवं उत्तरों का समय। श्रोतावृंद अपने प्रश्न सर से पूछ सकते हैं। सर, एक क्वेश्चन है आपके लिए सर, विजय सर।
यस मैम।
हाँ सर, मैं मेरी स्ट्रेस लेवल कम करना चाहता हूँ। मुझे साउंड स्लीप नहीं आती है, तो इसके लिए मुझे क्या करना चाहिए?
रोज योगाभ्यास करना है मैडम। योगाभ्यास मतलब सिंपल सूर्य नमस्कार से शुरू करके, अगर आपको कोई आर्थराइटिस, बैक पेन या कोई फिजिकल तकलीफ नहीं है, तो आप रोज 10-15 सूर्य नमस्कार करके, फिर थोड़ा बहुत जैसे अनुलोम विलोम प्राणायाम से लेकर भ्रामरी प्राणायाम करके 10-15 मिनट आप ध्यान करें। इतना सिंपल कैप्सूल की तरफ से अगर आप कोशिश करेंगे तो 10 to 15 days मैक्सिमम, 10-15 दिन के अंदर आपका क्वालिटी ऑफ स्लीप अच्छा होगा।
सर, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन है, how can we stop or slow continuous thinking process in our mind while sitting calm and quietly?
योगा चित्तवृत्ति निरोधा मैडम। पूरा योग का जो प्रयास उसी में है, क्योंकि अगर वृत्तियों को निरोध करना इतना आसान होता तो हम सब संत बन जाते। तो पूरा कोशिश जो है, पूरा योग के आसना, प्राणायाम, मुद्रा, बंधा, ये सब पूरा प्रयास उसी पे ही है। मतलब अगर हमारा वृत्तियों को अगर हम कम कर सकेंगे तो उसमें सवाल ही नहीं है। इट इज अ कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस है मैडम। प्रॉब्लम क्या है, हम लोग आम के पेड़ के नीचे बैठेंगे, बिना पत्थर मारे कोशिश करेंगे, आम नीचे गिरे।
राइट।
देयर इज नो फ्री लंच।
सर, नेक्स्ट एक क्वेश्चन है, और एक, how can we manage stress in our daily life, because sometimes there is no time for doing yoga practices.
मैडम आप हंस रहे, पहले ही हंस रहे आप। नो टाइम पढ़ते ही आप हंसी आ गए आपको।
Yes, sir.
It's all about whether do you want to do it or do you have to do it. The simple answer is
और एक क्वेश्चन है सर, जैसे कि व्हाट इज द रोल ऑफ यम एंड नियम इन मैनेजमेंट ऑफ स्ट्रेस? यम एंड नियम इज द फर्स्ट 2 steps of our Ashtanga Yoga. Then what is the role of this yama and niyama in management of stress? Is there any role of this yama and niyama? ऑडिबल नहीं है क्या सर? आप सुन पा रहे हैं मुझे सर? नहीं। सर शायद डिस्कनेक्ट हो गए हैं। सर का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। अब मैं डॉक्टर संजय जाधव सर, एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर, डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ स्वस्थ वृत्त को आभार प्रदर्शन हेतु आमंत्रित करती हूँ सर।
थैंक यू मैडम। सर्वप्रथम विजय पटेल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ आयुर्वेदिक स्टडीज एंड रिसर्च और इस वेबिनार की ऑर्गेनाइजिंग टीम की तरफ से मैं आपकी उपस्थिति के लिए आप सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स को धन्यवाद करना चाहता हूँ। इस वेबिनार का आमंत्रण स्वीकार करने के लिए और तनाव से हम कैसे मुक्त हो सकते हैं इस बारे में महत्वपूर्ण जानकारी देने के लिए डॉक्टर विजय कुमार PS इनका मैं विशेष रूप से धन्यवाद करना चाहता हूँ। वेबिनार को अनुमति देने के लिए ऑनरेबल चेयरमैन इंजीनियर श्री भिखुभाई पटेल सर इनका मैं हृदय से आभार प्रकट करता हूँ। हमें हर बार मार्गदर्शन करने के लिए ऑनरेबल वाइस प्रेसिडेंट श्री मनीष भाई पटेल सर, ऑनरेबल सेक्रेटरी डॉक्टर HG पटेल सर, ऑनरेबल जॉइंट सेक्रेटरी श्री PP पटेल सर, ऑनरेबल जॉइंट सेक्रेटरी श्री मेहुल भाई पटेल सर, ऑनरेबल जॉइंट सेक्रेटरी श्री रमेश भाई तलाटी सर, ऑनरेबल जॉइंट सेक्रेटरी विशाल भाई पटेल सर का मैं आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। वेबिनार की संकल्पना और प्रोत्साहन के लिए हमारे कॉलेज के प्रिंसिपल डॉक्टर मल्हारी सर देशपांडे सर इनका मैं विशेष आभारी हूँ। इस वेबिनार के लिए सहायता करने के लिए हमारे कॉलेज के योग टीचर प्राप्ति दलवाड़ी मैडम का मैं आभार प्रकट करता हूँ। वेबिनार के लिए टेक्निकल सपोर्ट के लिए कॉलेज के कंप्यूटर लैब टेक्नीशियन महीर भाई पटेल का मैं धन्यवाद करता हूँ। अंत में हमारे कॉलेज के सभी अध्यापक और अध्यापकेतर कर्मचारी इन सबका मैं आभार प्रदर्शित करता हूँ। धन्यवाद।